Hey everybody, this is Zoltan, and this is episode 2 of the Eibar Career Mode. And this is an interesting league that we recently made some changes to in episode 1, where we brought in the top 10 teams from the Segunda division, and we removed the top 10 teams of the La Liga Primera division. And so we've got a pretty well-balanced league of 20 teams that are all pretty evenly matched. And so we'll be going into that and updating that in a few minutes. But first of all, I just wanted to show the 3 transfers that we have now done. We did sell 3 players here. Some of the older players, I got 14 million for Pedro Leon, 16.5 million for Kiki Garcia, and 6.2 million here for my backup center back. So that did give us a little bit of money in addition to some money that I have earned from the preseason as well as my original transfer budget. And if you remember in episode 1, I did mention that my plan for this season was my goalkeeper Dimitrovic has recommended his fellow countryman to become our talisman, and he is Dusan Tadic. He's from Ajax, used to play in the English Premier League, so I'm hoping that I have enough to get this guy. 47.6 million is his release clause, which is actually kind of low, and I think that's because his overall rating has gone up a couple of points since he signed with Ajax. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to see if I can get a little bit of a bargain because I don't really have that much money. And so even if I can save 1 or 2 million, that'll make a difference in my ability to offer him a salary because I do have a pretty tight budget. Here is Jose Luis Mendilibar, and he is the Eibar manager. It looks kind of like him, maybe a little bit younger version of him. And his current Dusan Tadic has a current value of 34 million, but I know that they're going to want more than that, so I'm going to offer about maybe 38 million. And they're probably going to ask for some more than 38, 50.9. Now sometimes they will play hardball, and we may have to back out and try it again. How about 40? See if I can get him for 45 million. 45.4. Oh, there we go. So 46.8 is not too bad. That does leave me with some, but because my budget is so tight, I'm going to try to get this for 46 on the nose. Okay, so I saved myself a little bit of money there. If you remember, the original buyout clause was 47.6, so I saved myself 1.6 million, which normally wouldn't have been a big deal, but considering my budget is so terrible, I'm really tight right now. So I'm going to save this. It's always a good idea to save, just in case the player is asking for more than what I have, because I don't have very much left. So I'm going to go in here and negotiate with him, contract, and it doesn't hurt, you know, if you feel that they're asking for too much, to go in and back out and reload, because sometimes the game just starts playing hardball for no reason. So his current wage with Ajax is 43.5, actually no, 43,500. I think for sure he wants to be crucial, so we can offer him that. 3 years is what he's asking for. You can always counter 1 more year, so I'll go to 4. And I think he'll take that, so he's pretty happy. And one of the reasons I chose Dusan Tedic is he's so fun to play with because he still has his chant. The crowd goes crazy and starts chanting his name whenever he scores a goal, similar to Sergio Aguero. And those are really the only 2 really good chants that I know of. Unless somebody else has an idea, you can write it in the comments of anybody else that has a good chant. So release clause, nothing, so we'll accept that. And this is the wage that he's looking for, which is fine. I'm totally fine to pay that, but I want to take out the bonus for the goals, because if you saw my wage budget, look how small it is up at the top. This will only leave me with $7,300 left. So I will actually, the signing bonus is a little high, so usually it's a 9-to-1 ratio, so I can knock this down to 310. I think that seems reasonable. Oh, he wants 41.5 and then 360. That would leave my wage budget to 721. That's not good. So anyway, let's make this an even 40 and bring this to 350,000, and that would give me my remaining wage budget would be at 2,400. So well, it's not quite what he was hoping for, but that's all I've got. So sometimes actually the game, I think, does allow you to overpay a little bit. I think there is a 10% cushion, and you'll make that back later when you start playing some games. So I got my guy, and I'm going to be moving up, moving him right into the starting role. Of my Cam, central attacking midfielder. I also have Diop. As you can see, he's 33 years old. He's on my transfer list. And I also have Oriana on the transfer list. He's 33. This guy also, but I think he's retiring, so I don't know if there's much chance of selling him. So we'll see. But that gives me a solid talisman right in the center of my most important position, I think, is the Cam. And most of the rest of these guys are from the original Eibar team. Now you can also see here I have Quaresma, which is not from the original team, so you might wonder how he got in here. And I added 1 retiring player from to each team. So I thought it would be fun because I don't really have a lot of stars in the league right now. So as you can see, if I go down to Quaresma, he is retiring. So I'll just have him for 1 year. Now if I wanted to take a look at other players that, first of all, what is my plan going forward? I have 3 more guys here on the list that are currently in negotiations. So Diop is in negotiations with Benfica, and he's his offer is 7.2. Cote is 10.5, and Oriana is 8.8. So that will give me a little extra money from these 3 veteran kind of older players and try to get some young players in here. I don't think I'll be able to sell him because I think he's also retiring. I just put him on the list just in case. Alright, so let's take a look here at some of the other players that have been brought in. My minimum age was 35 because those players usually retire in 1 year or 2 at the most. And we can look at my league. Did I pass it? No. It's usually about 2/3 of the way in. There it is. Alright, so let's take a look at guys that I've brought in. So Aduriz actually is already from La Liga, but on a team that I've moved out. So I brought him in with the recently promoted team Albacete, as well as Gigi Buffon is now with Huesca. Castro was already there. He was already on that team, so I think this guy as well. But you can see Dante or Di Rossi have been brought into some of these lower level teams. Fonte, and I think he was already there. Ibrahimovic, Holebas, Iniesta is now with Girona, and Joaquin is with Levante. Lopez was already there, so this Lisandro Lopez I brought in with Cadiz, and I'm not sure, I think Pedro Lopez maybe was already there. So Mascherano, I brought him in, and I think Jorge Molina. So yeah, he was added as well, so he's 37. But, you know, that's the best player on their team right now. So, you know, so these are some good guys. Brought him in from Serie A. He's now on Deportivo, so he'll be retiring for sure. Frank Ribery and David Villa and Carlos Tevez. So, you know, it gives me recognizable players that will play 1 year and be fun to play against. But the really cool thing about this league now is that all of the teams are pretty even. So if I look down here at my standings, just to give you an idea of who's in the league. So if you went back to episode 1, you see how we did this. We made the switch of the 10 top teams from Segunda and the bottom 10 teams from La Liga, Santander, you know, Primera Division. And so this is a pretty even. All of these teams are 3.5 to 4 stars, so they're all pretty even. And I've added one cool, you know, player from past superstars that are at the end of their career. So it'll be cool to play these guys in smaller stadiums, which most of these teams do have stadiums. So that's what makes it kind of cool. So what we'll need to do is sell those other 3 players and make a few more changes to try to get this team complete. I have currently no transfer budget, as you could imagine from how much it costs to bring in Dusan Tadic. And so let's take a quick look here at where I'm at, because I've actually played a few games with this team. So let's go in and look at who I've added. And so we'll go over to the transfers to see who I've brought in and who I sold. So the original 3 players are down here. These are the 3 older guys that I had to sell to bring in Dusan Tadic, which is right there for 46 million. Then I sold those other 3 guys that you saw had already accepted their deals, so they agreed to a salary, and all 3 of them came in. Went out. So I did get a good 25 million from that, which the board gave me about 20 million. So I was able to get this guy, who was an up-and-coming 19-year-old central midfielder from Brescia named Tonali. And so he's got a high potential, so that's a good rising star. I was also able to find a player that came in on a loan. It's actually a 2-year loan from Leipzig, and he's more of a backup central midfielder, so that was really good to get him. I desperately needed especially someone who could play cam. And I also was able to trade my backup goalkeeper plus 400,000 to get this rising star here, a 20-year-old left back, Malacia, who's got some good pace and good physical skills, so I think he'll be able to develop. And because I lost my backup goalkeeper, I needed to bring one in, so this is a rising star here for Nottingham Forest. And I traded a center back, a backup center back for him. So that allows me to put together a fairly decent team. Now this team would be no match for Barcelona or Real Madrid. So those teams are no longer in the league, so I'm playing against more evenly matched teams. And so most of them, I think 7 of these players are from the original Eibar. So we have Heinrich, Inoue, Exposito, Escalante, Oliveira, Tejero, and Dimitrovic. So all of those guys were on the original Eibar team. And these are the young guys that I brought in, Malacia and Tonali. And Quaresma is on the last year before he retires. And my talisman is now Dusan Tadic in the middle. And also my substitutes are all pretty much old Eibar players, except for this guy who I brought in on a loan, but most of the rest of the guys are a lot of veterans on this team, older guys, and my reserves as well. Some of them I had to bring back from loan, like Calavera and Olabe, just in case I wanted to play. I don't have much depth, so if I wanted to have a second team on the weeks where I have 3 games in 1 week, I might need some of those guys. So here's where I'm at. This is I did actually play all these games. I didn't sim any games. I'm at 8th place. So I did win 3 games, 4 draws, and 1 loss so far. And I do think that with a couple more wins, I can easily be in Europa or possibly even Champions League spots in the top 4. So that's certainly within reach. So you can see the teams that are now at the top of La Liga are former La Liga teams that were more in the bottom. I think Celta is probably the best team, in my opinion, in the league. So I imagine they're going to rise. And Espanyol is also a legitimate team with a Europa spot. So, and if we look at my Champions League, I do have some success here. I have 1 win and 1 loss. I lost to Chelsea, and I did actually manage to beat Ajax without Dusan Tadic. And I haven't played Lille yet, but I should be able to beat them and at least move on to the knockout stage. Let's see, if Real Betis, if you remember, I did swap them out of that Segunda League into originally the second League 2 in France, and then I moved them out of there for Olympiacos. So they have a Champions League spot here in Group B, and they've won 1 and lost 1. So I figured, it'd be nice to at least see these teams again someday. Villarreal, I think I swapped them for one of the teams in Eastern Europe that frequently gets put into the Champions League. So they'll pop up again somewhere. And then other teams, like the 2 Madrid teams, I put into League 1 in France so they can work their way back into either Champions League or Europa. I do have a little bit of transfer budget, 3.5 million and 55,000 wage budget in case I wanted to use some money to try to bring in some expiring contract players. Sometimes I allow myself to have 1 player that otherwise it'll be too uneven if I bring in all these guys. So I might, give myself 1 player, or possibly I might go to a mid-level player that is on a retiring contract. So I can find somebody here like this guy, Kurzawa. Would be a nice addition to the team, and that would be realistic if I just wanted to go with some realistic transfers. And if I felt like I wanted to trade that retiring player, the center back, I could possibly trade him for a young, up-and-coming player, a backup that will give me some chance to grow somebody rather than just losing this guy. So maybe in the January transfer window I might do that. So that's it. I think it's going to be a pretty fun season playing with this team, which I think would not have been really that competitive normally for La Liga with all the powerhouse teams. But when you're playing against more evenly matched teams, I think it's going to be fun. And that's how you can customize your league and still have some retiring veterans to make it fun and interesting. And you get to play in a lot of nice, cool, smaller stadiums. So I think that'll be fun as well. So my star player right now is Heinrich. He's actually been doing fairly well. So that's who I've got for this first season, and let's see how I finish this year. And I can upgrade in the next summer 2020 transfer window. So that's it.